At last, Mansfield Town have finally won promotion from League Two after about 8 seasons of trying. They finally got over the line under Nigel Clough after coming so close on various occasions. But what next for the Stags? They've got a pretty sizable budget. So how do they address the level and how do they ensure they both retain their third tier status and give themselves a platform to continue to build within an increasingly competitive decision? That's what we're going to find out on this Summer Deep Dive. Yes, welcome along to the latest EFL Debate Summer Deep Dive, one of 72 club by club Summer Deep Dives we're doing across the EFL between mid-June and mid-July. Already a full set uploaded to YouTube and Spotify, so go check those out. Get yourself subscribed and possibly even drop us a review or a comment once you're done with this one. For now, I'm delighted to be joined by Sam Binch from MTFC Musings. Good evening, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So yeah, I'll ask the question that I asked in the intro. How do Mansfield Town navigate League One?
I think the first thing we need to do is ensure we keep hold of Davis Keillor-Dunn. It's been, I don't think any strong rumours, but as with any player who scores that amount of goals and assists, is going to be rumours that he might move on. But I think he's a key player we need to retain. We've managed to keep most of the squad together. There's only a few that we probably would have wanted to keep who have moved on, so that's positive. And then just hoping the players that come in can provide a bit of extra quality. I think as it stands at the moment, you're probably looking somewhere sort of mid-bottom half with the current squad, which I would be perfectly happy with. Anywhere above the relegation zone, I'd be perfectly happy with. I think they're still looking to bring in a couple more bodies, or 2 or 3 more, assuming no one else leaves. So we'll see the quality of those and see if they can push my prediction any higher up the League One table.
Talk to me about the job Nigel Clough did last season, Sam, because I doubted him, I'll be honest, a couple of times the year before. I questioned him on a couple of things, but he certainly defied his doubters. But I mean, I'm sure there was a large portion of fans that were always on board with Nigel Clough, but what a fantastic job he did last season.
Yeah, I think the doubts were understandable, given he'd had a few attempts at it and not managed to get it over the line. But yeah, last season, finally got it right. Did a fantastic job. I was quite bullish all season long that we were one of the best 3 teams. I think we had a few debates, not necessarily debates, but chats on here, and I think I was quite consistent in saying that I thought we would get automatic promotion. And yeah, it was just the quality of those few additions that were made in that summer and the January before. Davis Keillor-Dunn, Aden Flint, Lewis Brunt coming in at the back, that finally saw us over the line and playing probably some of the most attractive football in the league, scoring plenty of goals. But I don't think you could ever doubt the quality of the football we've played under Clough. We've always been an attacking side, scoring plenty of goals. It was at the other end where we needed to improve. Those improvements were finally made, getting some signing some defenders, in the most part, who were actually defenders, and paid dividends in the end.
Certainly did. Yeah, I thought you were a fantastic footballing side last season and created so many chances. But again, like you mentioned, 3 really good centre halves in Aden Flint, Bailey Cargill and Lewis Brunt, and a shame really that you couldn't start all 3 of them because the formation was the 4-4-2 diamond for the most part. So again, really strong area, and credit to you for making the required improvements. So goalkeeping position then, Sam. Christy Pym, I imagine you're very happy with his contributions last season, and given his experience at higher levels, you'll be very happy with him in League One.
Yeah, I was. He was definitely better last season than the season before. The season before, he made a few errors, and there was a few it wasn't necessarily obvious errors, but things like most shots that were on target seemed to go in. But I think he improved on that last season, and obviously helped with having better defenders in front of him. But there's never been any doubt in Clough's mind about Pim. He's always said he's number one. He'll play when he's fit, and I don't see that changing next season. Scott Flinders has signed another contract to be the backup keeper. Clough's got no problems throwing him in. Obviously, he's getting on a bit now, and I don't think he's played any league football last season. It was just the what's it
Cup
called
games.
now? Leasing trophy, is it? Or the B?
So we know what you're referring to.
Yeah, Papa John's, whatever it's known as. He played a few of those games. We've also got a few young keepers who look quite promising.
Nunes has signed is under contract for next season. Do you expect him to get a Northern Premier League type of loan?
Yeah, I think we might see him on loan at that sort of level. He's played internationally for who's it? Dominican Republic. That's who it is, I think. So he's obviously got some potential. I think he's quite highly rated. There's Owen Mason.
Is that
as
their
well.
senior squad? Do you know?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good. You know.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think he might have done. We also got Owen Mason, who's been involved in the Irish youth squads, and he's been on loan last season. I think it was at Wexford, I want to say, and he's earned some good reviews there. So I think I'm quite surprised actually that I thought he might be the backup keeper for this season, because he would also help fill the club develop player spot you have to have in the squad.
Sometimes though, Sam, it makes sense actually for your experienced number two to be your backup goalkeeper, your safe pair of hands if anything happens to Christy Pym. And actually you've got your Nuneses and your Masons can possibly get first team experience out on loan because they're the ones that really need those regular games. Yeah,
I'm sure he probably will go on another loan. But yeah, it's nice to have those options there. But like you say, I think Pym will play when fit, barring a poor run of form.
Yeah, I would imagine so as well. So the right back situation is a curious one for me, Sam, because you've taken the decision to release Callum Johnson. I'm not sure I personally agree with that because I think you could argue there's question marks over Jordan Bowery, over Elliot Hewitt, and over George Williams. Williams mainly because, firstly, because if you're playing a midfield diamond, you rely on your fullbacks to provide width. I'm not sure George Williams necessarily does that so much. And also, when Callum Johnson got injured initially, it was Jordan Bowery who got the nod to play at right back rather than George Williams, which might suggest to me from a complete outsider's point of view, I don't know the nuances of the situation, does that suggest Clough isn't super hot on George Williams if he was playing on the bench when he first choice right back's injured? And then Elliot Hewitt is a very dependable right back, certainly at League Two level, but he's got a recent history of injuries. So for me, you've got three senior right backs there, and I think all of them have question marks over them.
So we'll start with George Williams. I think, if I remember rightly, in pre-season last season, he got injured and then took a little while to get up to speed. So I think when Callum Johnson initially got injured, Williams wasn't perhaps quite up to speed, so Bowery was the preferred choice. I think Williams, he doesn't set the world alight, but he's quite steady. He's got plenty of experience. He's quite a steady defender. Like you say, he's not the best going forward, but he probably helps his cause that he can play right back, left back, and he also played centre back in a few of the cup games last season. So, we know Clough likes his experienced players.
He's versatile players.
Yeah, versatile, and he doesn't seem like someone who would, upset the squad if he's not playing. So, sure. I don't mind him staying on. Obviously, Jordan Bowery is another Clough favourite. He's retained just, I think, for his
experience and versatility,
complete versatility. In any position. But I think he has made it quite clear that Elliot Hewitt will be the first choice right back when he's fit. Obviously, he had a he's had a bad injury, which is still.
Well, that's kind of what I would ask Sam, because firstly, I think you're stepping up a league is going to be more physically demanding, especially you're going to be out of possession more. So it's like you're releasing Callum Johnson supposedly on the grounds of he spent the second half of the season injured, but before that he was starting 30 plus league games pretty regularly over his career. Whereas, so you could argue Elliot Hewitt is the bigger injury risk because he's had long-term injuries. He certainly had one last year. I'm pretty sure he might have had one in one or two seasons briefly before that. So I don't know whether Elliot Hewitt's going to. First of all, I think he could cut it at League One level, but I don't think he would necessarily be great for what you need. Seeing as you play with quite a narrow midfield diamond, you need your fullbacks to be able to get forward. So that would be a bit of a question mark for me.
I think Hewitt can do that. When he was prior to his injury, he was our player of the season before, where he played mostly at right back. He can obviously, again, he's another versatile player. I think a fully fit Elliot Hewitt is a better player than Callum Johnson, in my opinion.
Really, I think Callum Johnson is a lot more athletic than Elliot Hewitt, and I think Elliot Hewitt is slightly more technical than Callum Johnson. But I think the trade-off, especially with the step up, works favourably with Callum Johnson as opposed to Elliot Hewitt.
I would disagree with that, actually. I would say the other way around. I think Hewitt is more athletic and Johnson.
Really? Than Callum Johnson?
Yeah. He's very quick, Elliot Hewitt. He's very quick. He gets up and down the wing all day long. Callum Johnson, I'm not saying he's not athletic, but I think I would have Elliot Hewitt over him in that stakes. But I think Callum Johnson has perhaps got the better quality in terms of crossing, and carrying the ball. But I think it was just unfortunate for Johnson, and I think he probably would have been on more money than Hewitt, just at a guess. So perhaps just looking at it that way, where they could make cuts and improve the squad. Like you say, we've got 3 options at right back already. So yeah, I think I don't mind that, but like you say, I do have concerns because Hewitt came back probably before he was ready to come back because of the numbers we had, and then after he played 2 games, he had a flare up, which meant he couldn't play again. So, but hopefully the summer, obviously, will allow him to rest and rebuild. But yeah, I would say it might be quite likely that that's a position we're looking to improve on in January or in the summer next season. But I think Hewitt has done enough in his time at Stags to earn the chance at League One, and prove that he can fill that.
We'll see. It's really interesting. I mean, because I suppose you watch Mansfield every week, so I can't argue with your first-hand experience, obviously. The thing that's really tended to stand out to Hewitt for me is more his footballing intelligence, his universality, his willingness when to move into positions, when to plug gaps, his relationships with the player on the right of the diamond. I think those are all really positive aspects of Elliot Hewitt. So I suppose if he's got the athleticism aspect that you mentioned, I haven't personally seen that myself, but if you can bring those things together, then hopefully you can make a good fist of it. But I guess centre half is the main area of strength. But you might need to, depending on whether Alfie Kilgore can stay fit, because he was talked about as being a very talented young defender a few years ago at Bristol Rovers. But do you think you need to replace Lewis Brunt in this squad?
Yeah, well, hopefully Lewis Brunt will be the player who replaces Lewis Brunt. We're still trying to get hold of him on a permanent deal, or if not a loan, which obviously would be brilliant because I think he has got a lot of potential to play, probably at Championship level, if not higher. But obviously, if we don't sign him, then we will definitely need to bring someone in. I think Alfie Kilgore, from what Clough has said, is probably not going to be fully fit until around Christmas time, which might mean...
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it was initially said pre-season, so there's been questions over this because it was...
Maybe you're having pre-season at Christmas time. You never know.
Yeah, it was hoped to be back for the start of the season, but then Clough has sort of said that he might not be registered in the squad. You know how you have to submit the list of 22 players. He might be one. So I don't know whether perhaps they're planning to loan him out in the first half of the season to get his match fitness up, perhaps. But obviously that would leave us with just Aden Flint and Bailey Cargill, as well as others who can...
Jordan Barry.
Yeah, Barry and Hewitt, who can probably fill in there if necessary. And I think Blake Tracy, when he's signed, he's been mentioned as someone who can perhaps fill in as a wide centre back.
He's another versatile player for his Blake Tracy.
Yeah. So I think even if Brunt does sign, I wouldn't mind us signing another one. Obviously, we signed Oshilaja as well, who was originally a centre back. So perhaps he's happy with the options there. I think Aden Flint will be starting every game, I would have thought, if he stays fit. Yeah, and then it's just a case of finding a partner for him. But I think that will probably... I'm not sure about if Bailey Cargill will be the preferred starter there, because he did play quite a lot of time at left back last season, but I don't know if I'd be keen on him as a left back in League One. I feel like he's not the quickest, not the most athletic, perhaps could get exposed by the extra quality.
And again, Sam, if you're playing a midfield diamond, the fullbacks are the most important positions. Like
exactly.
they've got to be physically capable of getting up and down, and also technically capable of providing that width and creating a little bit. So I think those are really important positions, and hopefully you can get them right. But I think Fraser Blake Tracy's a good signing. I think he's a very dependable player. I think very highly rated, very highly thought of at Swindon. Talk to me about Louis Reed then, Sam, because he looks like he's going to be he's going to be crucial once again if you keep hold of him.
Yeah, he'll be another key player. Again, he's probably another one who will start every game when fit. He was a brilliant player for us last season. He had a bit of a run in January time where he's perhaps looked a little bit jaded, but he seemed to come back at the end of the season, and the energy that he obviously playing in that position where he's sort of the main protector of the back four, and he's also the one who's entrusted with starting moves and things like that. I think he was brilliant. Just slightly worrying me that he's had a go at League One and perhaps not established himself there at previous clubs. Perhaps when he was a little bit younger, he's obviously got a lot more experience now, and he's probably trusted by Clough. Obviously, he gave him his debut, I think, at Sheffield United, and he's obviously been made a key player in this squad. So hopefully, it's a coming of age season for him. But he's definitely someone, a key player for us, who you'd be looking at to be one of the key players again next season.
Yeah, I've personally got no concerns about Louis Reed stepping up. I think his passing range, his vision, ability to accept the ball under pressure, all crucial things for the role that he plays. So for me, he's Mansfield's up there with Mansfield's most important players, with Aden Flint and Davis Keillor-Dunn, really. So I think he's going to be absolutely pivotal once again this season. So hopefully he can deliver, but I'm sure he will. But the really exciting signing, I think, Sam, is Keanu Bacchus, who not somebody I've ever seen live personally, but you go, whether you go to Scotland, whether you go to Australasia, literally all the reviews on Keanu Bacchus seem exceedingly positive. So that seems highly encouraging, doesn't it, Sam?
Yeah, it seems a bit of a coup for us to be able to get him. Obviously, there's quite a lot of tweets, I think, from St Mirren fans saying, how the hell's he ended up at Mansfield Town? We thought he'd be going to a championship team, or at least, Bolton or someone like that at the top of League One. But yeah, it does seem exciting. He seems a bit of perhaps a younger version of Ollie Clark, who's obviously left, someone who can get around the pitch. He'll probably provide us that extra bit of steel we're going to need when, we're going to be out of possession for quite a lot of time, I would have thought, next season compared to last. He'll provide energy next to Louis Reed. I believe he's, like you say, I've not seen him play personally either, but led to believe he's quite neat and tidy on the ball, not necessarily anything too technical in terms of creative ability or goal scoring, but certainly if you play at international level, you're going to have a certain amount of technique. So he does seem to be quite cool. Like I say, there's it seemed a bit of a shock that we were able to be the ones who pulled that one off.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we're assuming it's going to be a 4-4-2 diamond for the step up, which isn't a guarantee, Cloughy might decide to switch up the formation, but let's assume for now, for the purposes of this, that it'll be the diamond. Are we looking at, do you think, Aaron Lewis and Keanu Bakus in terms of the wide midfield spots in the diamond?
I wouldn't be sure about Aaron Lewis. I think
Okay.
that left side is perhaps up for grabs a little bit at the moment, probably between 4 players. So there's obviously Aaron Lewis, there's Hiram Boateng, Stephen Quinn, obviously, who signed for another year.
Of course, yeah.
And obviously George Maris as well, who played a lot in the 10 role last year, but might obviously capable of playing that role as well. So there's quite a few options in there. I wouldn't say there's necessarily one who's a standout. Probably a place that will be up for grabs in pre-season. You would have thought. Like you say, it's not the diamond. Obviously, is quite an open formation in terms of that midfield. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we went to sort of more of a 4-3-3. We don't necessarily have the wide players for that in terms of the wingers, but obviously Clough has used Akins wide in the past, Bowery wide in the past, Keillor-Dunn can go wide. So you wouldn't be surprised to see maybe an Oshilaja in there as the 4-3-3 if in games against tougher opposition. So yeah, I think that's probably a place that's up for grabs, and there'll probably be 4 or 5 players fighting for that spot in pre-season.
Yeah, that certainly makes things really interesting. Stephen Quinn, staying on at 40 years of age. And do you know what? Whenever I watch Stephen Quinn, he just doesn't look like he's 40. He looks more like he's 30. The way he gets around the pitch, there's almost an effortlessness about the way he runs sometimes.
There is, yeah. I think for 60 minutes, you wouldn't realise how old he is.
Yeah.
I think that's
For the last 30, you might think he's 50.
Yeah, I mean, with the 5 subs now, you can sort of afford to have a player who's quality for 60 minutes and then someone come on. I'm also wondering if that left-sided position, obviously Stephen McLaughlin's been given a new deal. I'm also wondering whether we might see him in that position a little bit next season,
Okay,
or as a left-sided midfielder. Obviously, he's played a lot at left back, so perhaps he started on New Year's Day away against Stockport. He started on the left wing. So that's probably, against tougher teams, that might be where you see McLaughlin play a little bit as well. So yeah, like I say, there's plenty of options for that position, but it's good to see. I thought Quinny might go out on a high.
Yeah, I thought he might have done as well.
But it's nice to see him given another season. Just hoping that it's not a bridge too far. But like I say, we've got plenty of other options if he's not quite what he was last season.
Yeah, I think that could be a big ask, because as much as you'd never like to write players like Stephen Quinn off because they keep proving you wrong again and again and again, League One and how demanding the level is going to be, you do wonder whether he is going to make the cut, but hopefully he will. But I suppose lots of competition in those wide midfield spots, and I'm sure that'll become clearer in pre-season. But we know that either side of the diamond are pretty fixed spots, in the sense you've got Louis Reed at the base and you've got Davis Keillor-Dunn in the 10, who arguably player of the year in League Two. He would have been my player of the year in League Two last season.
Yeah, I think he was robbed, to be honest, of that award. I think it was Jody Jones who
got Jody Jones won it. Yeah,
obviously a very good player, but doing as well as he did for a promotion-winning team, you thought that might be enough. But obviously, I'm sure that he's not too fussed about that. But yeah, obviously a brilliant player at League Two level. Hopefully, the role that Clough gives him in our team, sort of a free role to do what he wants, drift where he likes. We'll hopefully see him thrive at League One. I don't see any reason why he couldn't. He's got all the necessary technical ability. So yeah, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be someone who kicks on next season. He seems quite an ambitious player, so I'm sure he's got desires of playing for a club bigger than Mansfield. As much as I hate to say that, he's still a good age and still can probably reach a higher level. So yes, I've got no doubts that he'll be one of the first names on the team sheet again next year. It's just hopeful that we'll be able to keep him for the full season.
Yeah, delight to watch last season, certainly. So then up top, I'm quite curious to see how that all comes together, and whether you're going to have, I guess, the firepower that you need, because you've signed Lee Gregory, who I think brings a bit of higher league nice, I guess, because he's played in the Championship quite regularly for Millwall, played there for Sheffield Wednesday as well. You've got Lucas Akins there, you've got Jordan Bowery, but I'm just wondering. The sort of peak age centre forward who's in their prime, you don't really have that. Is that something that would kind of concern you a little bit?
Yeah, it is a little bit of a concern, the striking positions. I think we are still looking for an attacking player, so hopefully, because at the moment, like you say, I don't think if you ask me what the front two was going to be for the first game, I don't think I'd be able to tell you that. I think Gregory will probably be the main man. I'm hoping that he will provide what Akins could provide, but perhaps with a bit of added goal threat from open play. He seems very determined to do well. Obviously, he's not going to say any otherwise, but he sort of said when interviewed, you know, he's asked about his age and his advancing years, and he just said something along the lines of, just wait and see what I can still do at this level. So, you know, it's quite a bullish response from him. He did play for us when he was a bit younger and got released and went to non-league, and obviously he's gone on to have a much better career than he probably would have done if he'd have stayed at Mansfield. So, yeah, I think I quite like that signing. We tried to get him in January, but couldn't get him over the line. So he's obviously been someone been looking at for a while. Obviously, Lucas Akins, big favourite of Nigel Clough's, doesn't carry necessarily goal threat in open play.
Can he step up at his age, Sam? League One, bit of a stretch for the demands of this level.
It's certainly a doubt. I don't have any doubt about his.
He was brilliant last season. I'm not arguing against that, but
he had a very good season. But like you say, will he be able to get the better of League One defenders? Not sure. I think he'll do a job when needed. He'll certainly fill in different positions, I'm sure, when needed. But I don't see him starting as many games as he did last year. And then the other options, obviously, you've got Will Swan, who...
I like Will Swan. He was a bit of a slow burner last season, but he seemed to come to the fore towards the end a little bit.
Yeah, had a very good spell from January onwards. And if you look at his goals per 90 and, you know, goals per minute sort of ratio, it's very promising. But it's just, he seems a bit fragile, can pick up knocks and that sort of thing. Still a young player, obviously, still developing. He's a penalty box player. He does provide a bit of a direct threat, a dribbling threat. But again, I'm not sure he's ready for regular starting role in League One. So yeah, it is a bit of a. I do think we need perhaps someone on loan from a higher club. A bit of pace would. Swan's reasonably quick, but he's not lightning fast. I think we could do with a bit of pace just as a different option up there. Obviously, Rhys Oates has signed a 1-year deal, but again, he's probably not going to feature until towards Christmas time. I think he's been given a new deal primarily because he's currently injured. I'm not sure if he would have been given one had he been fit. He's sort of fizzled out a little bit, had constant injury problems. But I'm sure he'll be another one who's determined to prove his place, prove his worth. He's obviously, in the past, he has been impressive in spells. And again, he gives a direct option, a bit of pace. Whether he's still got that explosiveness after a couple of serious injuries, we'll wait and see. But yeah, like you say, I do have the same question marks over our attackers, and that's when you look at the other teams in the league who have come up, they've got, you know, sort of proven goals. So I think that's probably what's stopping me from being a bit more ambitious with my predictions at the moment. But yeah, I think we've never, even under the 3 years of Clough, we've never had someone who's a 20-goal a season striker. So it does seem to be the team chips in with goals.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that can carry on at a higher level. We'll wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, let's wait and see. So Sam, I've got a huge amount of respect for Nigel Clough. I think he's had a brilliant career in as a manager in the EFL, not to mention as a player in the top flight as well. And clearly a very intelligent man. And I suppose I'm putting myself in a slightly dangerous position, if you like, by questioning him after you've just won promotion, which was again a great achievement. He did so well last year. But I do have three concerns that I want to put to you about how Nigel Clough's going to approach League One that will, and your answer might dictate how I'm feeling about Mansfield Town in terms of their prospects this season. So let me give you those three concerns. The first one is that I think he might overvalue experience versus growth potential. I think he might overvalue versatility versus ability in best position. And I think he might overvalue loyalty over ruthlessness for the good of the team. Those are three big concerns that I have about Nigel Clough approaching the monstrous challenge that is League One, and we know how demanding that league's going to be. Those are the three things that I'd put to you. How would you sort of respond to that?
I think the first two are fair, and I
Okay.
would have the same concerns. I'm not too worried about the ruthlessness side of things. I think with Ollie Clark going, he was obviously a very trusted lieutenant of Clough, and we did trigger the option in his contract to keep him for another year, but I think that was on the understanding that there was interest in him and we might be able to get a bit of a fee for him. He's also let some players go who've been trusted players of his. I've not got too many concerns about that, and I think there has before last season there was a case of, is he a bit reluctant to play some players who he hasn't signed? I think George Maris at times was left out when he probably should have played, for people like Kieran Wallace and things like that who weren't up to the level in my opinion, but did get picked quite often. But I don't think that was the case last season. And I think even players like Keillor-Dunn were left out and left on the bench on occasions where it was necessary for the team. That wouldn't necessarily have been something that I would have done, given obviously he's such a quality player. But
sure.
he was proven right in the end. Obviously brought him on at half time in the MK Dons game, and he went on to win us the game. So I'm not too worried about the ruthlessness, but I do think there might be occasions where Jordan Bowery is playing at right back ahead of a better option, or Lucas Akins is playing up front in place of a better option when. So I do understand your concerns on that, and I think it is a reasonable one, but I don't know if it will be enough to be at a huge detriment to us, because I think they are two players who, whilst they're not necessarily the best quality wise, they don't often let you down in their performances. That might change going up a level against better opposition. But yeah, they've been, Jordan Bowery in particular has been such a good servant to us and been such a good player, dependable player, that you kind of think some of them have earned their chance at League One, and that's where I suppose that's where the loyalty over quality thing is that you're questioning. But yeah, from a fan's point of view, I can see an outsider's point of view where you perhaps haven't got the emotion. It sounds a bit weird, but the emotional connection to a player.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, you're perhaps looking at it with a better view than I am, I suppose, on that. But yeah,
I do get the fan side of it as well. I can see that the giving someone a chance if they've got you up. Yeah.
And I think this might be a bold prediction, but I think as it is, the squad is good enough to stay up. So I'd be tempted to give them their chance in the early part of the season and see how we go. And if they're not cutting it, perhaps phase them out towards the end of the season, or bring in some players in January who might up the quality a little. But I think we've got a good enough squad in the first half of the season to give them a chance and see how they go.
Okay. I do hear that. I just feel, to me, I'm looking at the squad in front of me, and I do feel like I see a lot of players where the rationale for having them in the squad is they try hard, they're very versatile, they're always dependent, they've done it before for me, or they put in a great effort, they're very professional. And I do see the need for that, because you want to create a culture that can thrive to an extent against the odds, although you do have some money. But there's also, so I do kind of understand how having good professionals who are reliable makes a difference. But I feel like there's enough where you could sacrifice 2 or 3 of those hardworking, dependable, versatile, experienced players who are good in the dressing room for just 1 or 2 extra big players who really push the envelope. So that's kind of how I feel. I think there's a quantity, and there's a sort of a bias for players who do a sort of 6 out of 10 job, but I don't know that 6 out of 10 is going to be enough in League One. I think you want to make sure that you've got Kine Bacchus was a great signing, so I think that's a great example of someone sort of going for a quality signing. But I think so far he's the only really quality signing you've made. Hopefully you do make more. But for me, it feels like there's a lot of players who are do a solid job, but I think there needs to be a bit more quality for League One, personally.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 things I would say in response to that, I mean, the first one, I'm not sure how competitive our budget is at League One level. In the past, I think we have had a decent sized budget, but I don't think that's translating to top half League One sort of budget.
Okay, yeah.
I think when you look at Stockport,
I was kind of guessing upper bottom half sort of budget.
I think somewhere probably between 12th and 18th, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not as high as 12th, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So I think, and the other point I was going to say is that I think obviously there's still 2 or 3 players that we're looking to bring in. So hopefully those will be players, who add that bit of star quality that you're looking for. But yeah, I do. When you look at the players who Stockport have signed so far, I think they've done some quite impressive business.
Sure.
And I don't think we can necessarily compete with them or Wrexham, obviously, on the financial front. So when you're a new club coming into League One, I think we'll be quite low down the pecking order if you're a player who's being chased by League One clubs. I don't think we'd be the most attractive option. Not necessarily in a great area of the country to live in terms of attracting players, I wouldn't say.
Nottingham's not bad.
Yeah, it's not London though, is it? Or a big city, or Manchester, or somewhere like that.
You got the trams though. The trams are always good.
Yeah, I've got the trams. I don't think that means much to a 22-year-old footballer, to be honest. But so I think the pool that we're shopping in is quite. You're probably not going to attract that sort of top quality League One signing. I think we maybe have in Bacchus, so I don't really know how we've done that. But
to be fair, Bacchus is a great signing. I think he's got the potential to join those 3 key players that I mentioned, and hopefully Pim as well can sort of come into that equation.
And I know you don't seem that necessarily that keen on Lee Gregory, but I think quite a lot of League One teams would have been interested in him. I think Derby were trying to sign him last.
You came up with an old squad, and I just think that the problem with having an old squad coming into League One is that you're relying on players to get better when players are often might be at a place where they sort of plateau in their career, and at any point some of them could decline. So actually what you want to do at this stage is add growth potential to the squad and players who are on their way up, because that's how you can kind of raise the value of the squad and make it more competitive in League One. Whereas at the moment you're asking Lucas Akins, who is a very good League Two player, to raise his standards even higher because he's going up to League One. You're asking Jordan Bowery to raise his standards even higher. Lots of Stephen Quinn at 40. Is Stephen Quinn going to get better at 40, 41? Those are the kind of questions that I would just ask. I think you want to invest in growth potential to sort of rejuvenate the squad. You've got the experience, so yes, Lee Gregory has quality and he's got pedigree, but for me, I think you need athleticism for the demands of stepping up a level. He's a great professional, Lee Gregory, but is that going to be enough? Do you need more than professional? Do you need someone who are natural physical athletes? That's kind of where I would be sort of questioning a little bit. I think that's what's going to be required in the next 2 or 3 editions.
Yeah, I do see where you're coming from on that. I think it's a fair point, but I do think we have also got a lot of players either in their prime or coming into their prime who will provide that sort of thing. So you've got the likes of Will Swan, who's up and coming, George Maris in his prime, Lewis Reed in his prime, Aaron Lewis, Blake Tracy, obviously, and Bacchus. So you have got that smattering of, energy, and I'm hoping Oshilaja, not that keen on I don't think he might play a massive part, but he is someone who'll provide legs and energy in the team.
Sure.
So believe me, I can see where you're coming from on that, and it has been a frustration in the past of the sort of age of the people who Clough brings in. There was the January transfer window, not last season, but before, where we signed Kilgore, Callum Johnson, and Lewis Reed, and Keillor-Dunn, and they were all really good ages, really coming into, and that was under David Sharp, and I don't know if he had sort of a say in bringing down the average age of the squad there. So yeah, I do see where you're coming from on that, and it is a concern, but I think whilst the age of the players is concerning on paper, I don't think some of them look their age, play like their age, if that makes sense. I think they still some of them are quite vibrant, some of them still got plenty of energy. Hopefully, obviously that can go quite quickly. We've seen that in players in the past, but I'm hoping that it won't be next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I've put one side of the devil's advocate forward, but I do also get the value of experience and having reliable professionals in there and people who have never let the club down, and also the loyalty of giving them their opportunity. I do understand that, so I do appreciate that side of it. So to condense everything we've talked about in this podcast, then, Sam, what would be the big reasons for you to believe Mansfield Town can achieve their ambitions this season, which I imagine from what you've said will be to finish sort of in the middle of the bottom half next season?
Yeah, I think when you look at the past few seasons, I think I looked back up to 10 seasons, there's not that many teams who go up and come straight back down. I think last season all the promoted teams did pretty well.
Yeah,
finishing some in the top half, some mid-table, apart from Carlisle, obviously. I don't see us as a Carlisle. I think we were a pretty strong team at League Two level last season in a very strong division.
sure.
And I don't see why that would necessarily drop off in a big enough fashion to mean we were one of the 4 worst teams in the league above. I think if we would have beaten quite a lot of teams in the league above last season. So I'm hopeful with the squad we've got. At the moment, I would probably have us sitting, as I say, around 16th, 17th, 18th, perhaps. I'm hoping with a few more additions that will creep up. But I think I'd be quite happy with that if we could establish ourselves. I just don't want to go straight back down. The last time we got promoted, we went straight back down. And I just think after all those years of trying, it'd be such a such a letdown to go straight back down, and I don't think we will, to be honest. Like I say, at the moment, I'm quite confident that we can secure another season in League One after this one.
Let's hope so. What are your reasons for doubt? I'm aware that on this podcast I've given you a couple of reasons for doubt. Do you have any? Yourself? You sound pretty hopeful that you will achieve your ambitions.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think the points you've raised have been valid ones in terms of the age of the squad, and probably if you took Davis Keillor-Dunn out of the team, that would be a big concern. That's one of my big concerns if he moves on anywhere.
Yeah,
and I think a lack of pace, perhaps lack of energy, but I think hopefully the signings of Bacchus and Oshilaja have provided the legs in the midfield that we might have been lacking a little bit.
sure, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think I think we might have to change from the diamond. I'm not sure that will work as well in League One, particularly against the better teams. I think we might have to be a bit more pragmatic. So, goals might be hard to come by if we have to switch formations a little.
Well, that would definitely need you needing more pace in attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're not able to play as much football, I think you've got to try and stay true to the identity that got you there as much as possible, and make pragmatic tweaks. Because otherwise, you're going to end up trying to play a way that the squad isn't really built to play. So I think you've got to try and be brave and trust the process that got you up. With a couple of tweaks.
Yeah, I think at home we'll definitely try and do that. And we did compete with Peterborough pretty well in the cup game last season. So, and we have always competed well against teams in the cup, League One teams in the cup. So I can't see us being blown away in many games. Last season, I think we only lost two games by 2 goals or more. So, we're a competitive side. And yeah, like I say, I don't have too many doubts that we'll stay up, to be honest, other than Keillor-Dunn either going or perhaps not adapting to League One as well.
Yeah, I think Keillor-Dunn really holds the key to the season for Mansfield Town. So, Sam, give me too early for a prediction, obviously, because a lot can happen between now and the end and the start of the season. Give me a number between 1 and 10 to denote your level of optimism that your ambitions will be realised.
I would say 8. I'm quite confident that we'll stay up, and that's my only ambition. To be honest, I know some people might find that a bit strange, and I think
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy with 20th place. I'd take that now if you offered it me.
Unfortunately, I can't offer you 20th place now. Sam, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your insight on the Stags. This has been the EFL Debate Summer Deep Dive. Thanks to you for watching at home. Make sure you get yourself subscribed on YouTube and on Spotify. Drop us a comment or a review if you fancy, and we'll see you again very soon.